Good evening to one and all present here. The Moot Court Society of Law College Dehradun, faculty of Uttaranchal University, welcomes you all for today's session under the banner of Second National Online Lecture Series on Contemporary Legal Topics. The topic for today's session is information technology, data, artificial intelligence, and intersectionality with the Constitution. Today, we are delighted to have with us Mr. Surjendu Sankar, advocate on record, Supreme Court of India, ex-partner, Shardul Amarchand Mangaldas, as a guest speaker. We welcome you, sir. I would also like to welcome Professor Dr. Rajesh Bahuguna, sir, respected Dean, Law College Dehradun, and officiating Vice Chancellor of Uttaranchal University. Sir is also the patron of Moot Court Society, Law College Dehradun. Professor Dr. Poonam Rawat ma'am, HOD Law and Chairperson of the Moot Court Society, Law College Dehradun, President, Vice President and members of Moot Court Society and all the members for today's session. Before starting with the session, I would like to introduce our speaker, Mr. Surjendu Sankar Das, sir, advocate on record, Supreme Court of India, is 2008 graduate from WBNUJS. Sir is the is the standing counsel for the state of Goa, panel advocate for GAIL India Limited, panel advocate for CGEWHO, panel advocate for Central Warehousing Corporation, panel advocate for Goa Shipyard Limited, counsel for BHEL. Sir is a former dispute resolution partner for Shardul, Amarchand and Mangaldas and Company, New Delhi. Sir successfully handled numerous cases before the Supreme Court, various high courts, trial courts, and tribunals in India. He successfully handled several complex international, domestic arbitrations, and challenge or enforcement proceedings. Sir has significant experience as an advocate in complex trials, appellate matters, writ matters, arbitration, and enforcement proceedings. He has represented wide range of Indian and foreign clients, both in litigation and arbitration. He has deep experience and market know-how for disputes pertaining to the following sectors: construction or engineering, shareholder disputes, power project disputes, telecom project disputes, mining, oil, and gas. Now, I humbly request Professor Dr. Rajesh Bahuguna, sir, to address the attendees.
Thank you, Krishna. Uh, well, on the occasion of this second national webinar or online lecture series being organized by Moot Court Society of Law College Dehradun, today's keynote speaker, Mr. Surjendu Sankar Das, Advocate on Record, Supreme Court of India, Principal of Law College Dehradun, Professor Poonam Rawat ma'am, President Ms. Anna Nupriya, Vice President Mr. Dennis Khan, Convener Mr. Rahul Kumar Sharma, and all the office bearer of Moot Court Society of Law College Dehradun, the society responsible to organize this wonderful national lecture series online. And dear participants from this university and all the other university of the country, I am taking this privilege to extend my greetings to all of you on the occasion of this second lecture series. I am also taking this privilege to welcome you on the behalf of Uttaranchal University family. So you all are welcome from our side in this lecture series which is being organized by Moot Court Society of the Law College Dehradun. My dear students, we have been organizing this lecture series since last 1 month, and series of eminent speakers have given their presentation, deliberation through this lecture series. And the very purpose of it is to discuss certain issues or legal provisions and topics which are not directly discussed in your classroom. These topics are either indirectly discussed in the classroom or not discussed at all as a part of curriculum. So the vision is when our student goes in actual practice, they find certain things which are not at all gone through by them or come across by them. So this is the endeavor of the society to particularly discuss all those topics. And the most important thing is the speakers we have invited and the speaker who have kindly consented to discuss and give their deliberation on this platform are the actual person, those who are practicing this field in court of law. So what is happening that the first hand knowledge, actual knowledge and procedure is being delivered to the student. And particularly I have seen in last 2, 3, 4 speakers that the question answer taken by the experts, they have made this lecture more interactive and meaningful as visualized by Moot Court Society of Law College Dehradun. Today's topic, it's really a very contemporary topic, and normally it is not taught directly in the law classes. Like information technology, data, particularly artificial intelligence, and at the same time joining it with the constitutional provisions which they have designed intersectionality with the constitution. This is a good try by the Moot Court Society, and today's speaker, Mr. Sankar Das, he himself is the advocate on record, and it is understood that the person who is practicing in Delhi area is conversant with almost all the courts, including commission and all. And when he is practicing in this area, and like these are very emerging areas, artificial intelligence and other things which we are going to take today. So with this, I will not take much of the time, but once again, I welcome you, Mr. Surjendu Sankar Das ji, on the behalf of our university. You are most welcome. And today we are meeting online, but I invite you, as and when the situation permit, you are most welcome in our college at Dehradun, and this is your own university. So please do accept this invitation also. And once more, you are most welcome. Thank you very much. And over to Krishna Rastogi.
Thank you, sir. Now, without any further delay, we request our speaker for today, Mr. Surjendu Sankar Das, sir, to take over.
Thank you so much, Vice Chancellor, sir, for your kind introduction. And I accept your invitation. I would love to visit your university and discuss and speak to students once the normalcy is restored. Thank you, Krishna, for your talk, introductory talk. I think I will straight away go with the topic now. I've prepared a PowerPoint presentation for the convenience of the listener because attention span is very short with webinar. So just to keep capture your eyes, maybe this PowerPoint presentation will be helpful. Let me try to open it now. I think everyone can see the slides, what I've opened.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So today's topic of discussion is that information technology, which is also used as IT, don't confuse with income tax, uh, data, artificial intelligence, most importantly, and intersectionality with the constitutional law. So this information technology or IT is a developing jurisprudence with the changing, uh, with the advent of new technology every day. What we are witnessing, with law is also evolving. Now, artificial intelligence has application in our daily lives, whether we can see it, we don't see it. It's within knowledge. Without knowledge, it has implication. Once it has an implication in our lives, which includes our societal life, personal life, and economic life, and political life, then the question of law comes into picture. Now, today's discussion, I don't want to make it a hardcore constitutional law debate or an information technology class for you guys. The purpose is to provoke thoughts on the subject, keeping in mind the changing circumstances. So first, to start with, uh, what do you see as data? Data is, nowadays it said, is that more valuable resource than oil. It is true. It's no longer, oil is no longer a valuable resource. It's data. And if you look at the varieties of kinds of data what we have, you'll understand what's the implication. So if you see the kinds of data what we have around us, you will understand the implication. So with geographical data, for example, if you open Google map, so that's based on geographical data. So how you're navigating is coming from particular data. Your cultural data from Indus civilization till different religion, different regional cultural data. You have scientific data. The financial data, of course, are important. You have statistical, meteorological data to predict cyclones. You have natural data on flora, fauna, trees, plants. You have transport data. So these are the broad category of data what we have around that governs different things. Now, coming to the question of artificial intelligence. As I said, the data is individual units of information. So if you say that this information is a broad thing, data is each unit of it. Now coming to your artificial intelligence, it has been defined, sort of explained by John McCarthy. He was an American computer scientist. He's also regarded as father of artificial intelligence. According to him, what he says is that artificial intelligence is the science and engineering of making intelligent machines, especially intelligent computer programs. Now, with intelligence being the computational part of the ability to achieve goals in the world. So as we know that it's the human brain that sort of runs the function, not the machine. So that intelligence is added by human being only, and the artificial intelligence is created. Now, where a machine possesses the intelligence as that of human being, such machines with the artificial intelligence can contemplate the environment that they are presently in, and accordingly they collect information and they predict a result, or they decide, they guide. That's the function of artificial intelligence. Now, if I talk about the introduction to artificial intelligence in Indian context, there was a task force which was, I think, around 2017. It was formed by Ministry of Commerce and Industry. The objective was economic transformation. So you can relate that, artificial intelligence has a primary role to play in country's economy. And for that purpose, What was the objective? Objective was that what role can government play, how artificial intelligence can improve human life, or what is the scope of generating employment, because with artificial intelligence and technology there's a possibility of reduction of employment. So the another scope of the task force was how to generate employment with AI. Now this task force had come up with its report. It's available over internet only. You can see it's 20th March 2018. Now it has identified certain key sectors, I would say, where artificial intelligence has major role to play. For example, in manufacturing industry, in fintech industry, in the health industry, agriculture, food sector is there, education, public sector, utility, retail, everywhere. Now, if you look at the industry application, nowadays, Facebook, you have Twitter, Google, Uber, Ola, there are e-commerce operator like Amazon. They're highly dependent on artificial intelligence. And that raises the question of right to privacy and many other ancillary issues and how to control it. What is the policy to be framed? Now, it has also implication in defense. You have autonomous underwater vehicle, unarmed combat aerial vehicle, which can control underwater and aerial combat. So, look at the important industry what we have in India. Those are majorly impacted by artificial intelligence. Now, coming to the health sector, now you can see in COVID time how importance of technology is there. Like artificial intelligence also has also important key role to play during COVID times. How doctors are coming with different innovations. Education now as well. You see the education, how all the colleges, schools, for example, today we are having webinar. Have you ever thought of one last year that we'll have webinar instead of physical classes? So technology and artificial intelligence have nowadays, it has integral role to play in our daily lives. Now, this task force also had laid emphasis on the data privacy. So those are the recommendations given by the task force. The reason why I'm discussing artificial intelligence task force is that the government has a thought process in mind that we have to utilize artificial intelligence. Why? For the economic growth, for the economic benefit. And that raises different policy and other issues. And I've just noted down a couple of recommendations which may be useful for you to just have a look at it. For example, one recommendation was that government should set up a data bank, marketplace, and exchange to ensure ability to cross-industry data information with necessary sharing guidelines, because that's what is happening nowadays. Industries are sharing data, sometimes with permission, sometimes implied consent, that raises the legal implications. So if there's a policy in place and there's a clear data bank in the market, so then you know how it is to be regulated. Second thing is that policies to encourage and enable development of and deployment of AI-based products, and more importantly, HR development. This is very important because devising strategy to develop skill sets is very important. Without having the proper human resource, everything is useless. We can have the concept, but we don't have the persons will be the key personnel for the artificial intelligence. Now, having introduced you with the initiative at policy level, I want to lay emphasis on the impact. What are the impacts that that are available, that are seen because of usage of artificial intelligence? First example is if I talk about bank. See, now banks all can use the artificial intelligence to determine the criteria to grant loan, maybe housing loan, car loans. Their pricing strategy, their advertisement is so much of dependent because of how they're utilizing the artificial intelligence. In insurance sector also, for example, if there's an app to track the behavior of the driver. So depending on that, it can allow the insurance premium and the coverage, etc. Automobiles very important because they have different sensoring system. On the basis of that, they can predict the failures or they can avoid costly car recalls. Health sector, I've already laid emphasis, but health sector has the major implication of usage of AI. I must say that. For example, there's one Manipal Hospital Group. They had partnered with the IBM for diagnosis and treatment of certain types of cancer. And pharmaceutical industry also has equally usage in terms of artificial intelligence in molecule discovery and academic literature, etc. Now coming to the most important aspect, that's not industry because that raised debate if we call it industry. It's a service sector, I must say. It's legal industry or legal sector, where artificial intelligence has much role to play. Starting from your DD or due diligence, where you do it manually, it takes lots of time, and you can cut short your time by usage of artificial intelligence. Second example is reviewing documents and legal research. So legal research you already seen through Manupatra and other SSC online and other research tools. How artificial intelligence is used to narrow down your scope of research and find out a solution. Reviewing documents again is important because when you have a machine with particular algorithm, it can identify certain types of documents, clauses in different documents, and they can combine together. Another important aspect of artificial intelligence is management of law firm or sort of a big setup. Like I had in my experience, I was in my previous organization, I was helping the management, by usage of artificial intelligence that had to be implemented. I was in talking stage that, for example, a law firm or a chamber has more than 100 matters. So by artificial intelligence, you are creating a system when you will get to see a particular month how many matters are listed and what are the next steps, what has to be done. You get automatic alert, what is the next drafting, who has to review the draft. All this complex procedure can be sorted by artificial intelligence. So it has a big role to play in management of a law firm as well. Now coming to most important aspect where we are seeing the implication is arbitration or ADR. Mediation is using artificial intelligence. Some of the mediation institutions, they have one app which has the sort of algorithm based questions. So you put the questions, you get a solution from the mediation app. In terms of arbitration, of course, for example, I can give you the easiest example is that now you have 5th schedule and 7th schedule creating lots of conflict. Who will be the arbitrator? So if you can have the proper algorithm in place in a system to check which arbitrator will be the best suited in terms of conflict, not in terms of the matter, you can easily sort it out. Another good example of implication in arbitration is that in fact, I was briefed by one of the IA company or institute. They're based out of abroad, but they have an Indian subsidy as well. So they have a system, because in arbitration, especially in construction arbitration, you'll have thousands of pages and hundreds of volumes of documents. So they use the artificial intelligence to sort out the papers. Like, for example, if you search a keyword with, for example, you have to do some drilling exercise. So, they catch the relevant words and equivalent words, and they give you leads or suggestion, the way it happens in Google. So you can see that how artificial intelligence has important role to play in our lives as well. So as a lawyers, we have to be equipped with artificial intelligence and technology, and especially in this tough time during COVID, you are seeing that how dependent we are on technology. Otherwise, our lives are nowhere. So, of course, it has many role to play in our daily lives in every industry, every sector. Now, I think I must emphasize on certain recent phenomena. What has been happening? First, I think I would like to lay emphasis on the COVID situation before I get into my slides. You must have seen that Arogya Setu app has been implemented by government, so which requires you have to put on your switch on your GPS, Bluetooth, and you have to sort of give your personal data. And the purpose, the objective is of course benevolent, because it tries to contain the disease or the virus to certain area, and it has manifest usage, whatever you can say. But it also has raised eyebrows in terms of the critics have debated, because how the information what you were providing through the app, how the government is using it, and what happens to post epidemic, whether they retain it, they destroy it, you don't have any control. So I have a live example for there was one app, of course is not authorized by any government institute or organization. There's one app on COVID to track the patients. So once you download the app and install in your mobile, it automatically catches all your personal data. It goes into the system. You don't know which institute or which company, which private sector is running that app, but the information what is coming out of that app it may not be authentic also. And I had found, like, when I go to terms and condition in that app, I found that there's implied consent is written, which we never look at. The lawyer also don't bother to go through the terms and conditions in small font. There is written that I'm consenting for transferring my certain personal information to somebody else, to third party. So see how it's impacting my personal life. So that's one classic recent example of artificial intelligence information, how it is to be controlled on some policy has to be there. Another important 2019 incident, what happened is that there's a Ministry of Road and Transport. There was an information news, I would say, that government had earned almost 65 crore by what? By selling the data. See how useful, how valuable the data is in market. So there were two apps, Vahan and Sarathi. So this data was sold to car manufacturers. Total 87 private companies were benefited, and the government entities also, which were benefited with the data available through these two apps. Now, government has of course justified, saying that it has better implication because it boosts the economy. It has the car manufacturing companies are benefited, and it of course it has implication on the country. So there was some justification, but you see that data was disbursed by government to third party, the private agencies. Now, there was 2019 DNA technology regulation bill. I think is still in the bill shape, only not yet passed. Now, it also has certain aspects because it creates certain indices, on the basis of crime scenes, suspects under trials, offenders, missing persons. To some extent, in civil implications, civil cases also have implication. For example, paternity suit, immigration, transportation of human organs. So those issues have been dealt under this bill, which will be implemented and made as an enactment. Now, this particular legislation also has a typical feature that you cannot remove the data from database unless you have court order and or there's some police report. So there is an endeavor to control the data, but alongside we must understand that we need to use the data, otherwise we'll be nowhere, because everywhere throughout the world is progressing towards artificial intelligence in economy, in science, everywhere. So we also have to use it, but in controlled manner. Another very important aspect is AFRS, sorry, is artificial automated facial recognition system. So what happened is that National Crime Records Bureau, they had read a request, a proposal for usage of this AFRS by the law enforcing agencies, by polices. So what they will do is that they'll identify the missing person or criminals or dead persons through the facial recognition. So see, this has recently been debated in China also, because one particular minority community was identified by Chinese government, and they were deprived of many privileges and benefits. So it sort of raises some sort of surveillance issue, but it also has some important significance. For example, recently in Delhi, what I read from a couple of news reports, that in Delhi police has recently used AFRS method or some other artificial intelligence method to identify the writers in Delhi. So you see the how it has been used, the law enforcement agencies as well. Now, Central Welfare Database of Citizens 2019 Economic Survey pitched for creation of centralized database that would merge all existing data. And because now with the federal system, we have all the states data, we have central data. So if you have a coordinated approach, I think it's better, because there should be one central or sort of focal point of the data instead of dispersing with each and every state. But that also, we how politically divided we are. We have interministerial coordination issues as well. So I don't know how it is to be implemented, but this is also important. Now, access to social media accounts is again important aspect, I must say, because what happened, there was one HRD notification by some by some secretary that all the students should link their Facebook accounts with the school college account, something like that. Now see the implication, because with the present situation, when we see what's happening in JNU and many other colleges, so you're trying to curb, your government may try to curb or sort of do the moral policing. That is not what is called for, and that may quell the student activism. So there has been a criticism, and it raises eyebrow, that students' personal data may be used by the government, but it had some objective in mind. It was not successful. Now, linking of WhatsApp to Aadhaar has been again another issue which Supreme Court is considering, and of course Facebook, WhatsApp had resisted, because that would violate certain privacy of citizens. But of course, government had justification to say that it cybercrime and child pornography, to ensure public health and safety, this is an important aspect, and we must link WhatsApp to Aadhaar. So gradually, what I'm trying to show is that news or whatever you're reading, offline, you are seeing the impact of gradual sort of, I'll not say invasion, but there is an implication that your data, your privacy control, but it's some sort of regulation is there over your personal data. There is one incident, I must point out a couple of incidents from this aspect. This incident happened very recently, of course. Facebook had there was a leakage of data by Facebook and Cambridge Analytica, third-party application. Almost 5 lakh Indian users' data was leaked. 2016, see another incident when Mumbai-based laboratory had leaked records which had so many patients' personal data, including their HIV reports. That again raises question. As a third incident, I wanted to show you is that there was a malware reportedly introduced in system in Hitachi service enables criminals to steal financial information, because objective is to get financially benefited. So they try to get data out of from different systems and use it for the financial need, and it is sold at high price. There's another incident I have given, and the last 2007. There's a Reliance Geo. Sorry, someone has some. Because I could hear some voice. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, so that these are the incidents I wanted to highlight, that how you can see how we have been everyday facing with some technology issues or the other. Now, I think we have to quickly rush with the time. Now, as I said, that we need to have protection, data protection, and definitely we must have sort of a protection when you have to use the data. There is a need for protection of my personal data as well. Now, the prospects of such data gathering and the analysis to benefit the common citizen or the citizen en masse has to be balanced, because there is a possibility of discrimination, exclusion, and harm that we cannot ignore. So how you're controlling it, you have to ensure that the personal data is protected, and alongside facilitate the growth in the digital economy. I think that should be the objective, and there's no conflict as such, but there are complications, because the common objective, as I said, is to have your economic growth as well and ensure your personal data is protected. And another important aspect is that the citizens' personal data has to be unlocked when you are unlocking it by a digital economy. So I think what you need to have a regulatory framework in place. With that, I'll come to the regulation bit. But we have at present IT Act 2000, and there are several amendments to it as well. Now, for the purpose of personal data and privacy issue, this rule, which is called SPD rule, is very important. I'm not getting into nitty-gritties of the act and rule, because you'll find hundreds of articles of it on these topics. But of course, your SPD rules talks about prior consent before disbursing any information or disclosing it to anybody else by the government. Now, of course, it has definition of sensitive personal data is very narrow. So there are certain loopholes, certain problems which have been on in the public domain as a criticism. But I would say that we are trying to still develop with the right law, not right law, right framework of law, I must say, with the advent of new technologies. Now, this is the landmark judgment, which is Puttusamy judgment. We can read it. I'm not getting into 400, 500 pages judgment. This will take at least 1 week to finish if somebody wants to analyze the judgment and sort of dissect different aspects which have been properly, nicely laid down. Of course, right to privacy is of fundamental right, which has been upheld by the Supreme Court under Article 21. You must keep in mind, under Article 21, the right to privacy has been held to be a fundamental right. Now, just to briefly describe, how it has been analyzed by, I think it was by Justice Chandrachud. He analyzed it through normative and descriptive approach of right to privacy. What is descriptive approach? Descriptive approach, or is a point of view, I must say, the condition or state of being. It is the right to be left alone. It's very important. It's right to be left alone, or being able to be free from certain kinds of intrusion. In this account, the right to privacy includes a bundle of rights. A right to privacy, right to privacy of beliefs, thoughts, your personal information. In contrast, what normative approach or account is this? Is a privacy views. The privacy is a sort of a moral claim against a third party to desist from certain actions. So you see the contrast, how the judgment tried to explain how the right to privacy is is prevailing in human lives or society, or from practical perspective. So I found this funny clip. Why I couldn't resist but to share that there's a difference between privacy and secrecy. There's a stark difference.
Those are two different concepts, because privacy is about autonomy and choice to control the access to information about our private lives, whereas secrecy is about withholding information that I have right, that others have right to know. So I've quoted from Jill Lepore also. Secrecy is what is known but not to everyone. Privacy is what allows us to keep what we know to ourselves. So you can, differentiate between what is privacy and how you can distinguish with secrecy. So I'll briefly touch upon the highly debated Justice Sri Krishna Committee report. It was constituted to identify certain key measures what you can have for data protection in India, and to recommend sort of methods to address any potential problems to ensure growth in digital economy, because we are thriving towards digital economy. So you should have some sort of system in place to make check and balance. So it examined the jurisprudential development and state of law of privacy in India, and thereafter you have the data protection, personal data protection bill, which has been proposed in 2018, is still not implemented, not yet passed to make an enactment. But there are certain aspects which have been highlighted in data protection bill of 2018. Sometimes it is debated that government has been given free hand through this bill to use the personal data, individual data, which is not appreciated. Now, you have to keep in mind that gradually the difference between government and private intrusion of your personal data is getting blurred, because government may not be having the personal data. It's getting through some third party, some private organization institutes. So how you're protecting your right, acquire the government or acquire the private institutes, very important. So, data fiduciary, for example, Facebook, WhatsApp, they have much role to play to cooperate, and of course, to ensure that personal data is protected. Now, for example, that leads me to the example what you can see. Once you search something in Google, some product, and you open your Facebook account, you will find that advertisement. So you see that someone is monitoring, regulating, or sort of not controlling but directing something to you for obvious purpose, because it's a commodity, it has to be sold. How it is doing is artificial intelligence. So the system is studying your mode, your nature, what your behavior, what pattern, what you're looking for, what product you're looking for, you're giving suggestion. So that's it's not a person or individual who is clicking the mouse to find out your preference, right? It's not that way. It's happening by way of artificial intelligence only, because there is a system in place which has the set algorithm that has studied your preference, your choices, your selection, and predicting this kind of result. So you see that how your everyday life is completely encompassed with artificial intelligence. That requires protection. Your personal data requires protection. So personal data protection bill is there. You can study, you can go through. You can have another class on personal data protection bill, because it has 100 implications and highly criticized. So with that, I must say that it's data is a new currency. As I said, it's sold at high price. Now, how you are managing? Some problem with my system. Yeah, how you managing the fear about the impact of artificial intelligence society while encouraging the innovation? That is important. It's not that you should completely prohibit to disperse or distribute your information, personal data, but there has to be sort of a balance. But it has, this data harvesting system has equal negative impact as well, because one single click on your Facebook, you're liking something that can predict many things, starting from your political view, your sexual orientation, your religious view, many other things, and that has an impact. Nowadays, you are seeing that people are unfriending on Facebook on the basis of their opinion. So if you have such kind of implication only basis of your liking in your Facebook, you see how it can impact your other things as well, and how government is controlling the the entire economy. Now, of course, as I said, that private intermediaries have a huge role to play, because it's not the government is not the only player. You have private institutions which are running the show. So controlling them is of huge importance. And last, but as a departing note, I must say that let human being control the technology. It should not be the other way around. And it's very important to say that technology should be used as supplement, as not a, it's not a supplement to what you are having. Your artificial intelligence has a role to play in your legal industry, legal service. But of course, it cannot completely remove the human brain, because the implication, the human intellect is always to be used. So artificial intelligence, in information technology and technology, everything has it has a benevolent aspect, but simultaneously it has to be used in regulated manner by government as well as individually. So with that, I think I'd like to conclude, because I'm conscious of my timing. It's already 4:52, and with that, yeah, if anyone has any question or something, I just stop sharing my, yeah.
Thank you, sir, for such a thought-provoking session. So we have arranged a short question answer session, and we have shortlisted a few. So I would request you to kindly address them. So first one being, uh, in the Aadhaar judgment, the law for implementing Aadhaar was passed as a money bill. Do you consider this as a loophole that allows the majority political party violate right to privacy, considering that we have submitted a retina scan and fingerprints with the data reservoir?
See, you cannot rule out misuse of some information, but alongside, you have to keep in mind that the purpose of detection or the information, the private information, personal information taken through Aadhaar, as has also some other aspect as well. For example, if you have to open bank account and many other things, you can see that how useful it is. They just rely on the Aadhaar data and it has been used. But of course, you have you can't completely say that it cannot be used by the political parties, whosoever the ruling party is. There is a potential, and it has been done, like in US election, the personal data has been highly misused, because once you have the personal data, your call records, your Facebook account details, your likings, those give your political orientations, and they can predict. For example, if you have a surveillance camera somewhere, in a polling booth, sometimes it raises the question that people will be more conscious about, how to vote, what to vote, many other things. So your personal data, how it has been used by Aadhaar, of course, it raises question when, of course, it has been a matter of great debate to say that this information cannot be leaked, but there has been some sort of counter argument that no, so I have an example that it has been leaked and it has been used. So yeah, I think with time we'll get to see with more examples than just to make an opinion because of the judgment and or some of the newspaper reportings.
Okay, sir. Sir, moving on to the next question. Sir, will the Personal Data Protection Bill 2018 stand a constitutional wait a second, constitutional scrutiny in the light of Puttaswamy judgment?
So, as I said that this data protection bill raises question of because of the free hand given to government. So of course there is a highly probability of sort of a hard challenge So see, I cannot predict whether it will sustain the challenge or not, but there will be a hard challenge because of some judgment, and that's coming from the scheme of the bill, or which should be made as an act. So those are debatable questions. There are pros and cons. You can have 100 views, but if you balance it out, I think it can be sort of controlled to give a constitutional validity if you tweak a bit and reduce the government interference to some extent.
Okay, sir. So I guess I have the last question also. So this is, so artificial intelligence is not completely perfect and it has some flaws. We saw some examples of failure of artificial intelligence leading to white collar crimes. What are the legal implications on the company regarding it?
So implication of artificial intelligence in white collar crime, you're asking, right? Yeah. So of course, as I said, that the data artificial, how you are tracking certain transactions, certain sort of business structure, or certain, you are suspecting some people, group of people, those who have the potential to commit crime. I think it has a big impact in that sense, because you can if you cannot completely stop it, but you can predict something on the basis of your artificial intelligence, and you can sort of try to control it. So there's a possibility. I can't say exactly how it is used by the law enforcement authorities, the kind of algorithm they use, but one of my friends was in cops, so he was explaining to me that it's not white collar crime, but it's a general crime. It has very good implication, because they have so much information in hand. They feel powerful. Like, of course, too much of power is not good, but of course, once you have power, then you are more confident, and it reduces your time for investigation to a great extent.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Uh, uh, Thank you so much, sir. Now I request Mr. Danish. Now I request Mr. Danish Khan, Vice President of the Moot Court Society, to kindly deliver a vote of thanks.
Thank you, Krishna. Having come to the end of today's webinar, let me without further delay propose a vote of thanks to everyone who made this possible. First and foremost, I would like to thank our speaker for today's lecture, Mr. Surjendu Sankar, for teaching us the concept which I personally consider as the future of the human civilization. It is indeed as the most relevant topic subject today. Thank you, sir, for imparting such vast knowledge. Next, I would like to thank Professor Dr. Rajesh Bhamula, sir, and Poonam Rawat, ma'am, a patron and chairperson respectively, who constantly supported and encouraged us every time in organizing a productive event that will promote legal learning. Thanks to the Youth Bar Association of India for providing technical support, without which this seminar wouldn't have been possible. Finally, I would like to thank all the participants who registered for and attended the seminar and made this experience richer. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the invitation. And of course, it is an interesting topic to listen and speak, from the perspective. Thank you.